After this morning's episode, I feel like at this point we can all acknowledge this, and I'm getting the Black Panther from Avengers Infinity War meme on my hands.
Get this man a shield.
Get this man an Emmy. Hey, what's up, you guys? It's me, ODRK, the Overview, back again with another video. So, The Boys just had its 4th episode released this morning, and if you haven't watched this yet, don't watch this video because I'm going to go deep into everything that went down this episode, and I feel like this has to be the best episode of the season, right? Or the show in general, if I'm really going to call it like that. Now's your time to bounce, and if you still want to hear about spoilers, if you want to stick around, continue watching, and if you haven't seen it, come back and you'll still have a good time watching. Like I said, coming off of last week's episode, the way it ended, it felt like we were going to go back into the past of Homelander's mind. We're going to see a bit more of his origin story of what happened to him as a kid. But no, the episode starts out with him actually going to the scientists themselves, bringing some ice cream cake, thinking, oh, I'm just here to talk, reconnect with my old buddies, pals. At that point, I'm thinking, oh, so we're not just going to see like a bit of an origin story. Something's going to happen and shit's going to go down. I just don't know how. But yeah, Homelander started actually taking each of these scientists one by one, putting them through a series of trials. Like one of them, the first guy he gets, he's like, "Remember when I used to get, yeah, I don't know, put on fire, testing my heat just so I can see how indestructible I am? Well, it hurt. So you're gonna get in the stove. Let's see how it's gonna burn you." But if we were just doing our jobs, and fair enough, he had a point because you got to remember, most of these kids and super people were experimented by Vought. They were put into asylums, schools, whatever means to activate their power, or should at least adapt to their abilities and see what they could be used for market and brand. But you got to remember, Homelander, he was the one that everybody wanted to actually be the poster child for superheroes, like the second Soldier Boys, basically. Not only that, but also the little flashes of red, because at some point the scene would just play out as is, and then suddenly you'll see a red flash go on in the screen, and I'm like, the hell was that? And it reminded me of the last episode of The Boys Diabolical Animated when it dealt with Homelander, because whenever he was on stage or dealing with criminals, you saw him flash to what happened to him as a kid. Yes, you saw it in a little artsy style where you didn't see anything exactly and you would see the aftermath of the kills. In this series, you would actually see Kid Homelander react to these situations. Like you'll see his face being burnt, you'll see him screaming for help, but you're not going to see anything of like what happened to those scientists or how the people worked on him it looked in that scene, but I just gotta say that was a nice detail, like from the animation. All the while, Firecracker and her brigade are actually going up against Starlight again. After what they did last episode at the Starlight House, we're having some of her own, should I say, followers in this case, come over to her house, actually try to dismantle, try to do justice on their own hands, seeing all the lies and stuff. Because it's funny when you realize that this show is making fun of the political world this season more. And I'll take this into real hypocrisy because, not gonna lie, the way I saw it in this show, I'm like, wait a minute, so they can say this, and get away with it, and it'll be just fine. Starlight already knows Firecracker based off some of her old pageantry superhero things in the past, but also the fact that Firecracker spending lies, telling the people what they want to hear so they can actually get their word going. But not only that, but I feel like this isn't even a parody at this point, but this is real life because there's a scene where Butcher actually has some old info on Firecracker that she actually, and for the sake of this video, she groomed a minor in the car when he was 15. So he's like, well, you wouldn't like this going out there, mate. And Firecracker just presses it in the middle of press. She was like, yes, I've had sexual relations with a minor, and God has taught me the way. And I'll just say, he saved me, and all my sins are gone. I'm like, what? It showed how far these liberal type people would go. And I'm like, huh. So no one's going to acknowledge the fact that she, one, a white woman, two, groomed a minor, and three, posted it and confessed and said, you know what? I'm not that person no more, and still got away with it. I found that funny. Back to Homelander, and this scene bothered me to the point where I'm like, okay, I've seen him kill people in the show. I've seen him mentally influence people in the show, but this scene is more of a fact that no, this is absolute power. And this scene in a way reminded me of the scene from The Dark Knight when Joker walked into the mob meeting and everything was like, "Oh, so okay, remember those times when you I don't know, try to pleasure myself in the room and you caught me and just laughed at me? Yeah, we're going to do that at you." And Homelander literally told this old dude, "Take off your pants, jerk off in front of us, and we'll just laugh at you." I'm like, okay, we seen Herogasm last season, and we didn't. I'm not gonna act like we didn't just see a human centipede a couple episodes ago. And are they really gonna? Oh, yeah. And I don't know. This episode, this scene, I'm like, this really was one of those. I'll look away from the TV scenes because I'm like, damn, I can see it, but it's more that I can't look, but I can't look away at the same time because it's just really scary. And with this high power, he even told them, okay, plot twist. If you don't finish, I'll laser your dick off. How's that? And the dude just went fast, and I'm like, yep, nobody's gonna stop this. This is gonna happen, and he's just gonna enjoy it, and ends up killing him anyway because one of the ladies, she's like, John, stop this now. And this scene is more the fact that Homelander isn't just a victim; he has the will of absolute power, and shows that even though he's the biggest and the strongest, he still has a weakness. And this lady told him, your thing is that you always wanted to be loved. We were afraid of you because we were afraid to disappoint you. You were a baby, actually flying, running, shooting lasers out of your eyes. We didn't know how to deal with something like that. We were afraid of you. And Homelander just loves it. And she even acknowledges the fact that he has no kryptonite. He has no metal that can shoot through him. He has no something that could actually stop Homelander or weaken his powers. His weakness is love. And that's the one thing he doesn't have now. The fact that his ego and everything inspires him to just be the biggest and the strongest. But now that love is in the factor of it, I'm like, he doesn't even have anything to that remorse because you got to remember, Still was the only one keeping him in control. Back to Starlight, I want to say, even though we're not seeing a lot going down with Starlight this season, because I know they're doing the whole thing with the houses, she's got to be the one, going up against Homelander and Firecracker, representing her people and her supportive movement. But this scene, or should I say this moment, is one of those, oh, yeah, she got business done. And I'm not gonna lie, I would have let that happen either way. What happens is that Firecracker's talking about Starlight and all of her medical records. I don't know how exactly. Maybe that's a government thing I feel like I don't know about because I'm not into that system a lot. Firecracker exposes some news about Starlight that she had an abortion not as a kid, because I'm like, okay, I would have expected that as a kid, but a couple months ago within timeline. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, does Huey know about this? Did he support this? And she exposed Starlight for being a baby killer. And with this whole Roe v. Wade situation thing going on, I'm like, wow, they really use that type of news and influence on this instead of just going for parody. And Starlight got shit done. She said, oh, hell no. Went up to Firecracker, start beating the shit out of her. Sister Sage is looking in the back like, yeah, how's that for uppity cracker? And that killed the image for Starlight. That actually, I don't know. I feel like it was smart. The fact that Sage knew that by Firecracker exposing Starlight is going to have not only attraction to her, but also the fact that, yes, you've seen Starlight beat an actual icon and somebody who's actually in line with their movement and just taint her image. It even caused the president, or should I say, the vice president, to actually lose access to the Starlighters. And so people wouldn't actually invoke that law. But I'm thinking, wow, yeah, now everybody's in a shitty place this season. Huey's storyline with his mom, I feel like that is one of the weaker things of this season. Not only the fact that Huey's not out there with the crew doing their thing, because you see Huey in the beginning of the show, and then episodes 2 and 3 deal with him and his dad and his mom. But part of me, and I feel like everybody's been theorizing this, that the tent B that Huey and Butcher took, that's making them see these characters like Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Huey looking at his mom. And I feel like, I don't know, because the way people are saying is that the V make them is hallucinating them to them interacting. But I'm like, this can't be real because Huey's mom actually signed a thing so she would be in charge of the body in case Huey's dad died, and everything is directed right towards her and not towards Huey. So I'm like, okay, so that has to be real. She has to be real until the end, where earlier on A Train got Huey a piece of V. so he can actually help his dad. And at this part, I feel like coming into the next episode, I'm thinking, okay, so someone injected V into Huey's dad, and at the very end, you see the blue compound, actually go into his system and actually open his eyes. I feel like that's gonna go bad next episode because from what they said in the show, he wasn't in a coma. He was just brain dead, and it was just waiting for the body to die. So I feel like next episode, and because I know this part in the comics, where I'm like, okay, so the show deviated a way where they could all didn't have 10V for the start because in the comics, all the boys' characters already got 10V injected to them the moment they met. So like that, they can actually take on the Supes. In the comics, there was no 10V. There was no temporary V that could actually have them fight. But what happens is if you give somebody who's dead Compound V, in the comics, they would come back to life. But the thing is, we're actually going to get B zombies. So I'm like, wait a minute. So are we going to see Simon Pegg actually, coincidentally play Huey, but as a zombie? Okay, that's going to be some stuff going down next episode. I don't even know if it's going to be like that, but I feel like I wouldn't deviate the show because they've done things to actually deviate themselves from the comics and some changes that could benefit it because we still haven't heard anything about the virus that was going on in Gen V going on to this show because Hugh, I feel like this did happen last season, but I feel like nobody's acknowledged it. Butcher was down in the mines looking for the crew, and you see him look at something, and he's like, bloody hell. And you see the next episode that nothing is mentioned about everything that happened in Gen V, about the virus that was going on, that they were experimenting on, and a Godolkin. But I feel like if that's going to come back into play next episode, or at least later this season, because you do hear about it in the trailers, hopefully that comes out. But I got to say, this episode, it was much more of a banger than what we had previously in the first three. The first three feel like setup, and altogether, it could have just been one singular episode. But in this, a lot went down, and it feels like, wow, this is a moment in episode in TV. I feel like everybody should have been around to watch, like Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead. I feel like this was a real can't wait and miss it episode because I couldn't wait to see what happened, and also for what's going on next because we're already halfway towards the season, and I'm like, wow, we're there already. Okay, what's 4 more episodes gonna bring us? Because I'm not ready to take on what they're going for. All right, you guys, thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. All my social media is down in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.